Brave spring training gave us our first look at Ian Anderson. Hasn't been on a major league mound since 2022. Did play decently, pitched decently well for Gwinnett last year. Everyone thinks he's got the stronghold on the final rotation spot simply because he's out of options. So it is put up or shut up. And you'd think the Braves would at least like to see it live in action before cutting the cord officially. I'm not quite there. And I think what we saw in his first start kind of shows why I'm not quite there. I mean, the control issues were something that were before injuries he was having there. He's not up to par in terms of velocity. He was like a 95er guy. He's now at 92 most of the time. I think that's obviously him. I'm just not quite sure he's ready to be a guy that can pitch for the Atlanta Braves every 5 days. And I think we saw why. Hopefully it gets better, but this is going to be a competition. I think that Ian Anderson, he's going to be the guy to watch this entire spring training the rest of the way.
Yeah. I mean, if you're an Ian Anderson, supporter and you want to see that 2020, we all want to see that 2021 version. But if you're more hopeful than anybody, this was not a good showing. I mean, he didn't look really good. Obviously, you talked about the control, 3 walks in less than 2 innings, 2 of those in 1 inning where he gave up that run. He was bouncing balls and, spring training. So it's that, the stats don't matter or they do, and it supports my narrative and that sort of thing. And Brian Snitker did what he always does, and it goes, we just want to get that one out of the way. We still got several, opportunities for Ian Anderson, and this is not going to be it for him. He's going to have several more goes at it. And, even if, he doesn't, show everything that, a lot of the fans want to see, maybe there is this, arbitrary kind of thing the Braves want to see to give him even more of a runway in the regular season to kind of give him even more. So what you want to see versus what the Braves want to see is completely different. Obviously, like we always say, working on pitches, working on different stuff. And he came in this season with a different pitch. So he is working on things. Definitely not a good outing for the kid, though.
Yeah, I mean, the stats to me, listen, they're all fun. But to me, it's all about finding that control. It's all about seeing what he can do, moving the ball side to side. He was unable to do that, and it really came back to bite him. We need to see some of that. I'd love to see the velocity get stronger, but you're right. This is something that's going to go on forever. Now, I am intrigued by the possibility. The Braves, they see what Grant Holmes can offer. They're like, all right, he's a good 4th guy. If Ian Anderson continues to look like this, the velocity's down low, he's struggling with the control, that 3rd offering, that new pitch, his side-to-side movement is kind of the same as it once was. Do you start worrying? I mean, because the offseason's not over. I mean, what did Alex Anthopoulos said? He said there could be something in spring training. I think this is something they're monitoring very, very closely in terms of maybe going out there and getting another guy. Now, I don't think it's going to be, a superstar pitcher, but I definitely think they have guys, either contracts that are right there on the dotted line that are very close to being signed if this kind of stuff continues, or maybe a small trade or something like that all Alex Anthopoulos has to do is say, hey, I've seen enough. I don't think he's got it. We're going to have to go get a more proven 5th starter instead of trusting an AJ Smith-Shawver or an Ian Anderson. But still plenty of time. No reason to go into that conversation yet. But I definitely think, he's got to get significantly better before the end of spring training, before the Braves can just say, hey, we trust you. You're our guy. You're going to be our 5th starter to start the season, because this is too competitive of an NL East to just go out there every 5 days and basically punt.
I mean, Hector Gomez reported, I think maybe it was Thursday, I might be mistaken, that Quintana has got, plenty of interested teams, and the Braves are one of those teams. He turned down a $5 million deal from blanking on the club that he declined a $5 million offer for. $5 million is pennies. And while, he's obviously not a frontline guy, 5th starter to just kind of give you a chance on that 5th day is all you're really looking for. Like you said, you just don't want to be punting on every 5th day. If you have, a game where you're like, all right, we're just going to have to score some runs today. That's it. You like those odds. So I think, a Quintana is a guy that you're kind of talking about where it's not going to blow the doors off anybody, but it's kind of a proven veteran who can solidify the back end.
What's kind of your gut feeling? I know you've only seen him one start, and I'm not necessarily talking about Ian Anderson by himself. It could be AJ Smith-Shawver that really established himself, or even someone out of the woodworks that we haven't even seen pitch yet this spring training. I mean, what's kind of your gut feeling? Because I do have like a little queasy feeling about. I'm fine with Grant Holmes being that fourth guy, but having Grant Holmes and then a fifth guy of Ian Anderson pitching, 2 times out of every 5 days for at least a month, that leaves me a little queasy.
If you look at the whole season, it's a long season, and obviously injuries are going to come up. It's inevitable. So, you're not just going to be, well, once Strider gets back, we're fine, because, Sale could get dinged up. Lopez could get dinged up. Schwelly could get dinged up. Hell, Grant Holmes could get dinged up. Like, chances are that fifth starter that is holding down that spot until Strider gets back will probably come back around. So I can understand it is a little, queasy. I would defer to the Braves, youngsters that like Schwelly and guys like that just come out of nowhere. And obviously hope is not a strategy. I say it all the time. But a guy like Drew Hackenberg, if he can control it a little bit, he's got a rocket of an arm and a lot of sexy stuff. Obviously, AJ Smith-Shawver is that guy who's probably most likely, if he can kind of figure out some consistency issues. But like you said, I mean, it couldn't hurt to spend $5 million on a guy like Quintana and just have a surplus of arms.
And we saw Chris Sale, who looked fantastic in his first little start. But that's a guy that I don't know the stat off the top of my head, but I think he had 6 days rest on 24 of his 29 starts. So like they are going to try to listen, and he still wasn't able to quite make it to the finish line. He was, he was pretty much perfect all season, but they have to be thinking like, we've got to get Chris Sale there. Yeah. And it worked, giving him those extra days off throughout the season. And I have to think, given how
do it again.
that
with everybody else too.
Yeah, that they aren't going.
Strider's coming back.
Yeah,
Lopez had fatigue issues. Schwelly's never pitched a full season. Yeah. If anything, we need 6 starters.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I'm think that's the other reason why I'm a little queasy, because I think this team ideally wants 6 major league starters, and we're looking at this going into the season where, all right, we got 3 great ones and a 4th one coming back, but you still got, even when Strider comes back, you still got 2 questions right there, and I think that's the part that makes me queasy, where I'm like, they've got to. I know we're this late in the offseason. I still think something's coming down the pike. I don't know if I'm crazy in thinking that, because it's not like the Braves have been notorious to go out there and get starting pitchers, whether it's the trade deadline or the offseason with Alex Anthopoulos as the general manager. He usually kind of just says, hey, we're going to slug. We're going to slug and we're going to pray on a couple of these starts. And it's worked more often than not. When Acuna comes back, it will probably work very, very often. But I look at that and I'm like, we need 6 starters going into the season.
Well, you can look at the Mets as kind of like where it could all go wrong. 2 of their guys already down for an extended period. They already had a weak rotation to begin with, and now it looks even worse. You're really relying on Clay Holmes to be a guy, like a borderline frontline guy, and you're not even sure if he could be a starter. So it could be a lot worse. The Atlanta Braves aren't in dog crap, but we are talking about a team that isn't just the Mets, where they're like, we're happy to make the postseason. We're not. It's that simple. And we have been early exited every single year since 2021, and these are the concerns.
And we have
it's the margins that make the difference.
We have not had a healthy starting rotation once.
Since
it's been
even when
Spencer
we won the
Strider
World Series.
multiple times, Max Fried multiple times,
Charlie
Chris Sale
Morton
last year, Charlie Morton. I mean, it's hard to keep all those guys healthy for 162 games. The Braves seem to have found a formula to do it pretty well last year, and I think they're going to stick with that formula, which means they're going to need 6 starters that are going to pitch, 20-plus games this year in all likelihood. And right now, I see 3, hopefully 4 of them.
By God, that's Bryce Elder's music, baby.
Hey, don't get me started on Bryce Elder. I'll start throwing out some crazy predictions. He's back, baby. Coming up after the break, we got a lot more to talk about.